Hi, I'm Matthew Sadler.
And I'm WIM Natasha Regan. Welcome to this game, which is Allie Stein against Stockfish from the TCEC Cup final. And this is really the game that won Allie Stein that final cup. It's in a Ruy Lopez, which was specified by TCEC. And then Stockfish chose a very traditional line, the Chigorin. Allie Stein responded by closing the centre and then played for a slow build-up on the kingside. It could choose to play kind of on the queenside or on the kingside, and at one point it does this really fantastic move, a4, in order to give its rook on a1 the possibility to lift and swing over to the kingside. Black's minor pieces become very passive, and Allie Stein's attack continues to build. But just at the moment where you think it's going to keep attacking, it swaps the queens off and goes into a better endgame with a rook and bishop against a rook and a knight, and Allie Stein proceeds to win.
Yeah, it was a very impressive game, and well, for me anyway, it really makes Allie Stein one of the favourites for next year's TCEC Super Final. So let's have a look at it. This was the opening position specified by TCEC. I'll just go back just to the start, and we can have a look how it all happened. So e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6. Bishop b5, a6. We haven't looked at too many Ruy Lopez games on this channel, so nice to see one here, and especially a main line as well. So
yeah, we haven't looked at that many e4 ones, have we?
Oh,
it's kind of been more d4, knight f3, because those are the ones that...
That is true. Yeah, that is true.
That the neural nets tend to choose.
Exactly. No, that's right. That's right. So knight f6, castles. Bishop b7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3. Castles, and now this little move order h3, which is an anti-martial move order. If you play c3, then d5 is the martial, and that's been very popular at top grandmaster level. More or less seems to guarantee black a draw, as long as you know an awful lot. And actually, funnily enough, it was also Stoneface's choice in the when it was given the opportunity and the top of the top bonus. But this move h3 is often played. The idea being that against the martial, h3 is more useful than c2 to c3. For example, your knight can still develop to c3 quickly. Lots of ways of playing it, but the move specified by the TCEC book was d6. And after c3, we are back in pretty much the mainline Ruy Lopez. And I mean, there's really, tens of thousands of games in my database from this position. It's really one of the most popular.
It's been played for lots of years at the top level as well.
Exactly.
Not just a topical line, but a traditional line as well.
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's right. It's I even played this when I was a little boy. So it's definitely brings back memories. So. What does Black do in this position? Well, this was very interesting just to see what Allie Stein did and what Stockfish did. I mean, the most popular move, I think, nowadays at human level is the Breyer, named after a Hungarian player of the 1920s who was very creative but died young. The idea being that actually the pieces are more comfortable behind the pawns. This nicely coming round to d7. The bishop's coming to b7, and you can play either c6 or c5. Very popular nowadays, and a very good line. Allie Stein, in its black game, went for the Zaitsev system, which was, very much played by Anatoly Karpov in his match against Kasparov. Not surprising, because Zaitsev was one of Karpov's trainers. But the ideas are not so dissimilar to the Breyer, actually. For example, in the game Stockfish Allie Stein from the Cup, we saw bishop f8, h6 to stop the knight coming to g5, and then knight b8. Again, this same maneuver, and Black follows up with g6, bishop g7, and stands quite nicely.
Quite a manoeuvring line, isn't it?
Indeed, that's right. Yeah.
That you can imagine. It's a positional type of line.
Exactly, exactly, and it's yeah. I mean, it turned out very, very well for Allie Stein, this one. So that worked out quite well. Quite interesting though that Stockfish really goes full retro and goes for the Chigorin, which is the really the oldest line in the Ruy Lopez. Just moving the knight out of the way, the pawn comes to c5, and then the aim is that the knight can move back to c6 later. So here Allie Stein takes an interesting decision. White's basically got two plans. I mean, either you're going to, well, you can keep the tension. That's what you can do. You can also play a rouser system, which is at some stage, normally not this quickly, but to take on e5 and then play knight d2. And the idea being that you've exposed this square. Bobby Fischer played this quite a bit as white with very good results. What you can also do is close the centre, and this actually was also a favourite ploy of Karpov's when he played this from the white side. But what's slightly unusual is that Allie Stein plays d5 immediately. Normally you do tend to wait a little bit, play knight bd2, just see where black's going to place this bishop on c8 really. I mean, if you played bishop b7, then d5, and this bishop on b7, knight a5, you know, really quite bad. So, you know, you're just trying to get some extra advantages. But black can play all sorts of things, including c takes d4, takes, and then a move like bishop b7, bishop d7, and then try and get some counterplay on the c file. Loads of grandmaster games in that. But Allie plays d5 immediately, you know, straight away heading for this.
Times we've noticed, isn't it, that that the neural nets release the pressure rather than keeping the tension in the position. They decide exactly what they want to do and just go and do it.
Yeah, it's basically if they think that that a structure is good, then they'll go for it quite quickly, you know, not try and get maybe every advantage from maintaining the tension. I mean, I was always taught as a boy that this was not the very best line for black, because for white rather, because black can exploit the fact that the c4 square is free and transfer this knight on a5 back to b6, and then this knight can maybe come around to d7 to f8 to g6. I had this in one of my engine games. Stockfish against Leela, and well, Leela played this. Oh, good lord! Do you know what? That's my computer there going off. I think I'm just going to switch it off. Good lord! There we are. That's my another computer saying that it's running out of battery. So yeah, Leela played knight c8, knight bd2, bishop d8, and knight e7, which is a nice manoeuvre to try and get that knight into play. But Stockfish, they played a few games with this, knight e5 and d6, queen b7, takes, and then c4. And, well, white's clamping down on this d5 square, the knight's coming quickly into e3 to d5. This tended to turn out, it was better for white. I think Leela made a lot of draws in that, so it wasn't too bad, but, still. I think white was definitely still better there. Stockfish didn't do that. Stockfish played a rather strange move, actually, knight d7. So that other knight is heading round to b6, and well, it felt a little bit like, I've got one bad knight on a5. Let's send the other one over there to keep it company, and maybe get two bad knights. In actual fact, yeah, it's not completely silly. I think in one of my engine games, Stockfish against Leela played quite nicely, and I think it shows quite well what black is trying to achieve. Stockfish went not b3 as Allie played, but went knight d2, and then black took the opportunity to play c4. So if b3, the idea is that we can take, and then the c3 pawn is hanging. So white went knight f1, knight b7 to get that knight round to c5, bishop e3, knight c5. Stockfish went b4, but now you can take and go knight b6. And here, in actual fact, yeah, this combination of knights has worked out very well. If you go b4, the knight can come to a4, and otherwise the knights are beautifully placed for supporting queenside play. And well, in actual fact, as you can see, Stockfish never really managed to get real kingside play going because it needed, pieces to defend the queenside. And yeah, this position ended up as a draw some moves later. But Black was very, very comfortable. So that's kind of what Black is aiming for, I think. But so this explains AllieStein's good move here, which is b3. It just means that if you go c4, white can go b4, not allow this en passant capture, and so really take away the c5 square from the knight. So this knight on a5 is just really going to be, passive now. Always a big problem in the Chigorin.
Look out for that knight actually a bit later, because when that does happen, it goes to b7 and then it doesn't have a5 square or c5 square.
No, that's right. Yeah, no, it's very, it is very, very passive. So knight b6, knight d2, c4, b4, knight b7. So yeah, that knight on b7 is not feeling very happy. Knight f1 and a5. Now Black's going to try maybe get a little bit of counterplay with taking on b4, and I mean here you see a big difference really between how Allie played and how my engines played in my engine matches. The key point is that this pawn after AB you're going to play CB, and then you're going to have actually a nice square on C3 that could be occupied by a knight. It's quite a good square in front of a pawn, always a good square for a knight attacking the pawn on b5. And that's really what all my engines seem to be aiming for. So they were, playing knight g3 as Allie played, but then they were playing, solid moves like a3, just waiting, not committing this knight on g3, and waiting for a-b-c-b in order to play knight e2 to c3. Allie just goes for a completely different idea, and I'm sure that the idea that was played in the game that makes it all come together was already part of what it had seen. Played knight f5, bishop f6, and knight h2. So this knight is coming into g4. Takes, knight g4, bishop retreats. You can't allow knight takes f6 check, of course. C takes b4, king h8. And yeah, I mean, White's pieces are very nice on the king side, but Black's sort of got some defences there, sort of teeing up for that. But here, Allie plays a really great move that really forces Black to make some major concessions. And again, it's this thing that we've often spoken about with the NNs. It's this whole board play that the NNs are very, very good at finding ways to weave together all of their pieces, into the game, even the ones that are on the queen side. And here, if you look at it, then you see that the most passive white piece is the rook on a1. So how do you think Allie managed to get that rook into the game?
I may have given a clue in the introduction.
If you were listening to the introduction, that's right. Then
whether you were listening.
Indeed, it's a good listening test. It's this incredible move, a4, and the idea is simply that you're simply freeing a3 for the white rook, and that is going to swing over to g3. And the addition of a rook to the attack, that's a big unit there. So knight takes a4, rook a3, f6, h4. The other typical neural net thing, the rook's pawn is coming into the game.
So in the last few moves, we've moved both our rook's pawns.
Indeed, and we're going to be swinging the rook over to the third rank. So here Stockfish took a decision it probably didn't really want to take, which was to play bishop takes f5. The big problem with that is that, well, first of all, you give up the two bishops. Secondly, that light square bishop was really probably one of your better minor pieces, really. So giving that one up really leaves Black with very passive minor pieces. Look at that terrible bishop, and also weakens light squares. And also this e4 square is a very nice square for White's pieces.
And that knight on b7 doesn't have any moves at all.
No, I mean it's really Black's really going to have to do an awful lot of work to get the minor pieces doing anything. Knight b6 was played. several possibilities now. I mean, white could, swing the rook over. Might give black a little bit of counterplay with a rook coming to a1, for example. So Allie Stein takes a couple of very nice decisions. I think rook a8, knight a8. The knight's passive on a8, of course. There's no counterplay on the queenside. So, that hasn't worked out too badly. And now another interesting decision. I mean, my engines were looking at the plan of going h5 very quickly. And then after h6, at some stage they were sacking on h6. Not certainly very, very dangerous. I mean, that's definitely true. Allie goes for something rather calmer, actually, which is just knight h2. Just intending to play g4 to g5, knight to g4, and and keep on lining up, basically. And well, if you look at how passive the black minor pieces are, well, this is also going to be a very, very good and very strong way of playing. So Stockfish decided that there was really no time to waste. It had to open things up in order to at least fight white on that side, on the king side. But of course, white's stronger on the king side, so in general you would expect white to come out more strongly. Queen f3 was quite an interesting move here, just keeping control of everything. I think that would have also been a very good move. F takes g6 was what Allie played. Quite aggressive, this one. Really trying to blast open that light squared bishop diagonal. And after
Allie wants to put its bishop in on g6 if given the chance.
Yes, exactly. That typical NN diagonal piece close to the opponent's king. So takes, and bishop c2, and it feels like black's got a little bit of counterplay, but the big problem is that long term, this bishop on c2 is so powerful, and white's just got to get out of this pin and then bring a rook into play, and the black's king is really going to be feeling it, especially when you look at those three minor pieces on the queen side. Of course, there is one piece that's not doing too badly now, bishop on b6. So Allie just exchanges that one off. If you go bishop e3, we'll go rook e3. e4, king f1, just simply get out of...
It doesn't really worry. Allie had the bishop pair before. I guess it sees exchanging the active piece as more important than keeping the pair of bishops.
Yeah, I think that's right. And of course, it's keeping this key piece, this bishop on c2, which is going to cause all the damage. I mean, here you see one of Allie's plans. You just go king f1, and if you go f takes g4, bishop takes e4 comes in, rook g3, knight g4, and well, I mean, the king's just so short of cover. This is going to go wrong very, very quickly. So, what did Stockfish do after bishop e3? Stockfish did something quite clever. Went bishop d4. Which at first sight looks, crazy. It looks like you're just losing a pawn for nothing. But the idea is to play queen g7, get out of this pin on the f5 pawn, and thus be able to play f4 and sort of try and block things a little bit. Clever plan to do that. The only problem is that, well, yeah, I mean, you're holding white back for a short while, but those knights are still, not doing very much at all. So Allie has a few moves. Just to get its pieces right. King on f1, so that it can play bishop f5 without the g pawn being pinned. If you do that with a king on g1, rook takes f5 would be very, very strong. Queen h6, queen d4 check, and king g2. And now white's just ready to bring the knight round to f3, and the rook's going to come to h1. Again with massive kingside threats. Queen g7. Could have taken the pawn on f4. A little bit more risky because black takes the pawn on d5. So Allie keeps control with queen e4. The idea now is just knight f3 again, rook h1, and just invade. So queen f6, rook d1, protecting the d5 pawn. Queen takes f4 is coming next. Really nice how Allie plays this, actually. No rush whatsoever. Really just exploiting the fact that it knows that the black minor pieces are very, very weak. So just not giving black any chance whatsoever. Knight f3. Here takes, and queen e5. I mean, if you ask me intuitively what you're going to do now, I would really, be thinking about some sort of kingside attack here. The H-file looks so tempting, but Allie doesn't do that. Allie just already seen, of course, I think both engines have seen that the endings are going to be winning for white. I mean, simply because white's got a bishop, this knight is much less active. And of course, the white's got two connected passed pawns on the king side. It's a very, very dangerous combination. So Allie played queen g3, takes, and then king g7, and f4. So this is looking very good for white. I suppose the only thing that you've got to watch out a little bit is that these pawns on the queen side are, can be attacked by the black knight, so you've got to be a little bit careful. But if you just give white a bit of time, I guess white's going to move the bishop away, maybe even to e6, move forwards the f and g pawns, and that's just going to be complete carnage in the end. So Stockfish started trying to make things happen on the queen side, attacking the b4 pawn and attacking the d pawn. Managed to re-establish material equality, but actually, neither of the engines seemed to care actually with their assessment. They both thought that this was really bad for black. Bishop's going to...
White's pass pawns are connected, and also bishop's going to be able to move. Look at both sides of the board better than the knight.
Exactly. I mean, the bishop can support its own pawns and also restrict blacks. So it's Allie simply manoeuvred a little bit. Yeah, in actual fact, the b pawn is almost impossible to keep because the knight on d5 isn't stable. I mean, it's simply it doesn't have an outpost. So, I mean, something like rook b5 is coming in pretty soon. So Allie just went back. Now the b pawn is more or less doomed. White's also threatening to play f5 and g5, of course. So this is very dangerous. King g3, just no rook h3 checks. Rook h1, rook b4. One pawn has gone, and the white pawns are still able to advance. So Stockfish played around for a little bit, but after rook d4 decided that defending the d pawn was not a good long-term option. I mean, g5 and f5 is coming in from white, and maybe the king can even come round to h5 to g6. So gave up that pawn as well, but after this there wasn't much to do, and the evaluation of both engines now were way above the threshold, which is plus 10 basically, which is huge, of course, 10 pawns advantage, and the black here actually resigned. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that game. I think it's a lovely example of AllieStein's skill. I mean, I do think that if you look at the slight difference between Allie Stein and Leela at the moment, I do think that Allie Stein has got something more of a cutting edge. Leela plays fantastically, but is really sometimes very solid. Whereas Allie Stein has still got that attacking joie de vivre. This sort of plan where not going for the not d3, but throwing the knights forward on the king side, and then working out this way with a4 to also bring the queen's rook into play. I thought was very nice, and really good Ruy Lopez strategy.
It is nice seeing how all the different engines interpret the same position, quite far into the opening, but they can play it in a completely different way.
Yeah, no, it's very good. I mean, they're all I suppose similar technologies. Obviously, Stockfish is different to the NNs, but all the NNs play, have their own things, their own way of doing things, and obviously all the ABs do as well. So there's really quite a lot of character in these machines, which is why it's very interesting to actually watch their games. So there we are. I mean, I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed our channel, then please subscribe. We've got up to 4,000 subscribers just today, I think. So let's try and make it to 5,000. And yeah, I mean, otherwise, do take a look at our book, Game Changer. Lots of fantastic games just like this between neural nets and engines like Stockfish. And otherwise, thanks very much for watching and see you next time.
Thank you for watching.